Awesome. Okay, it is officially 1 o'clock Pacific time, and so that means we're gonna go ahead and start. Hi, Danny. Cool. Okay, so people will probably jump on. I know a lot of people probably signed up to get the recording afterwards, and I'm going to minimize this so I'm not too distracted. But thank you so much for joining. We are going to talk a little bit about Paid Leave Oregon, which is the new program that is starting in Oregon. And you can put questions in the Zoom chat. It doesn't let me see the chat as I'm presenting, but afterwards I'll go back and look. But we will jump right in. I am Brianna. I think most people on here probably know me. If you've signed up for this, you probably got the email from me. If you don't know me, please reach out. I'd love to have a call and meet you and say hi and learn a little bit more about your business. But I have been in HR for a long time, for 12 years now. And we recently relocated to Kentucky. And so again, a lot of you guys on here probably already know that, but if you don't, we are not local anymore, but I know some people who are local that are lovely if that's what you need. But we're here in Kentucky and still providing service remotely. But we'll jump right in. Okay, Paid Leave Oregon. So what the heck is Paid Leave Oregon? Paid Leave Oregon is a new program that is it's state ran, and it allows workers in Oregon to take paid time off for some of life's most important moments that impact our families, our health, and our safety. They have a really fantastic website, actually, which is sometimes hard to say about government-run things, but paidleave.oregon.gov is the website. So be sure to bookmark that. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what the heck Paid Leave Oregon is, who's covered, who can elect coverage. We're going to talk about contributions and reporting and what it means for small employers and large employers and what an equivalent plan is and all the good stuff. So what is Paid Leave Oregon? So Paid Leave Oregon has 3 pieces to it. So you can take paid leave for things like family leave. So if you have a family member who has a condition or gets hurt, medical leave for your own personal serious medical condition, as well as safe leave. And basically what safe leave is for survivors of domestic violence, stalking, or harassment. Family bonding is also included in family leave. So that includes bonding with the child during their first year of life. If you adopt a child, or if a child is placed in your home as a foster child. Employees are eligible to take up to 12 weeks off from work in a year. And in some cases, they might be eligible for an additional 2 weeks of leave based on like pregnancy complication related conditions. And employees can take the leave by the week, or they can take it a single day at a time. So it doesn't necessarily have to be continuous leave. It can be intermittent leave. Sorry, I don't know if that's showing up on there. One of the greatest things about this program is that Oregon is not the first state to implement something like this. So we have a few states that they're able to look at and kind of go, okay, what went well, what did not go well, and kind of build the program based on what they've seen with other states. California and Washington both have active programs. So that's been super helpful. If you've got employees in California or in Washington, this program is probably going to look and sound pretty familiar to you. So as far as the timeline, we'll talk a little bit about what it means and when everything begins. So starting September 1st is when the equivalent plans, you can submit an equivalent plan. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that actually means. But on January 1st of 2023, that is when employers are required to start withholding contributions from an employee's paycheck, just as if you were withholding taxes or other things that come out of a paycheck. You would just do the same thing with their contributions. There are pieces of reporting that have to be done that you'll submit beginning the first quarter of 2023. If you have a payroll person, you can thank them because they're probably doing this for you. If you don't have a payroll person and you're not submitting your quarterly reports, then you should probably get a payroll person. So, and then in September, so September 3rd, basically 9 months later, is when the first group of people that need benefits will be able to actually start pulling benefits. So that's kind of the timeline. All right, who is covered by Paid Leave Oregon? What is awesome and crazy about this program is that it affects nearly every single person, everybody in Oregon. As an employer, all employers with at least one employee that's working in Oregon are covered. So some people watching this are probably going, okay, I have 30 employees. I've got a couple in Oregon, some in California, I've got some in Texas. The way that they're determining is if it's the entire population. So it's not necessarily only employees in Oregon that count towards your total number. It's all of your employees. For workers, it's all employees that are working in Oregon, and there are some stipulations. So the biggest one is the employee must have earned $1,000 in the previous calendar year from any employer. So that's going to be pretty easy to know if you have employees who, they're not brand new hires and they were employed this year, essentially. But the good thing is you're not required to determine eligibility. So the employment department that is actually administering Paid Leave Oregon is going to be responsible for figuring out who's eligible and who's not. So that's good. That's good there. Elective coverage. So if you're self-employed and you work in Oregon, then individuals and independent contractors are also able to elect coverage, which is a pretty cool benefit for self-employed folks. But as far as eligibility for employees, besides the $1,000 in wages in the last year, they just have to be experiencing a qualifying event. They have to fill out an application online. We'll talk about the new portal that they have. And they have to be contributing to the Paid Leave Trust Fund through deductions from their paycheck. Okay. All right. So there's a couple definitions. A large employer is any employer, and again, with employees, as long as there's one employee in Oregon, 25 total employees, W-2 employees in your business, that means you're a large employer. And essentially what that means is you are required to contribute 40% of a set rate of payroll. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that rate looks like. Large employers are not eligible for the assistance grants, but they can offer equivalent plans. Okay, yep. So I talked a little bit earlier about the payroll reports. So the way that they're going to figure out like how many employees you are, whether you're a large employer or a small employer, is they're going to use payroll reports to count employees to determine your size. And that includes full-time, seasonal, and temporary employees, as well as the out-of-state workers. Only workers that are hired to replace employees that are taking paid leave do not count, but everybody else counts. Small employers is kind of the other category. So if you have fewer than 25 employees, then you're considered a small employer. As a small employer, you'd not be required to pay that employer contribution, which is the 40%. The employer size is determined for the calendar year. So I believe what I read is based on those payroll reports in November, you'll get a letter or an email, something from the employment department that tells you if you're a large or a small employer. But most of you probably already know what you are. If you're a small employer and you are contributing the 40%, so up there, you're not required to pay it, but if you do decide to pay that 40%, then you would be eligible for an assistance grant. And basically what an assistant grant is if you have an employee that goes out and they're going to be out for 12 weeks, maybe they have a baby, you can apply for a grant that will help cover the cost of a replacement worker. So maybe you call the temp agency, they send you a temp worker and they can help you cover the cost of that. The employees still contribute their 60%. So that's the other, to make up the 100%, the employees will contribute 60% when you're a small employer. And you can offer equivalent plans as well. So assistance grants, like I just mentioned, small employers can apply for an assistant grant when an employee takes paid leave. And basically what it is $3,000 if you're hiring a replacement worker, or up to $1,000 for wage-related costs. And you can get up to 10 grants per year, 1 per employee. If you are self-employed, there's me, I'm self-employed, but I'm not in Oregon anymore, so I don't count. But if you are self-employed, you can actually choose coverage through Paid Leave Oregon, which is pretty awesome. You would pay, as a self-employed person, you would pay the 60% employee contribution. And there's some variation based on your income, but you would pay the 60%. In one of these sessions that I attended, someone asked, well, where's the other 40% come from? And essentially what the unemployment department said was, well, there's a trust, and self-employed people are going to pay 60, and there's really no one that's going to pay the extra 40. And so there's some kind of like a risk tolerance that they're willing to take where self-employed folks don't have to actually pay 100%. So I hope that works out well. You will receive benefits based on your income, same as the employees. There's no reporting or contribution requirement for businesses that hire independent contractors. So if you've got 1099 employees and that's all you hire, you don't have to worry about doing payroll reporting for those folks. All right, equivalent plans. So employers may provide paid leave Oregon benefits to their employees through what is called an equivalent plan. And there are a couple different types of equivalent plans. So there's an employer administered equivalent plan where the employer actually assumes all the financial risk associated with administration of the plan, whether it's administered by the employer or a third-party administrator. Or you can get a fully insured equivalent plan. And so that is where you go out and purchase basically an insurance policy from an insurance benefits company. And it's all administered through the insurance company. The equivalent plan must be approved by the department. You can submit those starting in September, on September 1st. Employees, again, will pay the 60% contribution rate. You must provide equal to or greater benefits to employees. And so this is sort of similar to when they implemented Oregon sick leave. So where you basically had to, if you had an equivalent paid time off plan, you had to look at your PTO plan, you had to make sure you were meeting all those minimum requirements that we had for Oregon sick leave, and you were covered. The difference here, I think, is that you have to submit and it must be approved. So something to kind of keep in mind if you decide to administer your own plan. An employer with an equivalent plan still has to report wages, which you're already doing if you have people on payroll, but you do not have to pay the contribution. Yeah. So how do the contributions work? They set the rate annually for the calendar year. The unemployment department has blessed 1% of employee wages up to $132,900. I don't know where they came up with that threshold, but that's what it is. The maximum rate is 1. And of course, this first year it is 1%. And it's the same rate for all employers and all employees. So there's no difference between a large employer, small employer contribution rate or anything like that. So employees will pay the 60% and the employer will pay 40%. They said, love the employment department, you may, as an employer, pay the employee portion as a benefit to your employee if you wish, which is kind of nice. So for an example, this is a pretty simple example, but if your employee earned $1,000 in wages in a month, then the employer would pay $4 into the trust and the employee would pay $6 into the trust. Okay, and this example, hopefully this example makes sense. I took this directly from one of the sessions, so hopefully it makes sense. There are somewhere some thresholds of what constitutes a minimum earning employee, a median income employee, and a high income employee. And based on that, they will make a determination of what the benefits that the employee receive actually are. So for example, the lower wage, like a minimum wage employee, this is if they're working full time, what they would make in a year and per week, and they would receive 100% of benefits for the week if they have a claim. Middle income employees, this example was about 80%, I think was what it was. And the high income earner, here's an example of what that might look like. That was like 55%. So I don't have super clear definition, and maybe someone else has seen this or knows, but I don't know what exactly that threshold looks like. But as far as like what makes you a middle versus a high income earner. Okay, so a few of the FAQs that I think will help in this discussion. How does paid leave Oregon intersect with other leaves like OFLA, FEMLA, and Oregon sick time? So paid leave Oregon is separate from other types of leave. Employees can take paid leave at the same time as leave through the Oregon Family Leave Act and the Family and Medical Leave Act. Employees can utilize their Oregon sick leave concurrently as well, as long as they do not earn more than 100% of their wages. Employees cannot get paid leave Oregon benefits if they're receiving workers' comp or unemployment insurance benefits though. Yeah, I can't earn more than 100% of your regular wages, but there are some provisions where even though it's running concurrently, like with OFLA, there are some situations where it might not. So OFLA has some provisions for like bereavement leave, and bereavement would not be something that would fall under paid leave Oregon. And so it's possible that you'll have someone taking it, but it's not counting towards an OFLA or a FEMLA leave. How much time is administering paid leave Oregon going to take me? I love this question. Paid leave Oregon is going to be managed by basically the unemployment department, which includes determining whether an employee is eligible. They're going to pay the employee directly when they're on leave, so you don't have to worry about that. Employees apply for paid leave directly through the program and not through you, so you the only thing you really have to do is collect their contributions and submit them. So that's fantastic. And if you have someone running your payroll, then you should thank them. They'll be doing all the work for you. Who is considered a family member? All right, Oregon loves everybody. So a family member is any of the following, any of these. And you can read them. I'm not going to read them to you, but my favorite is at the very end, anyone you're related to by blood or anyone who lives with you or is connected to you like a family member. So when I read that and I think back to different situations and what they have on the website is, if you feel like they are a family member, then they're probably going to count, but they have to convince the employment department of that. You do not have to worry about making that determination. So what if I've got a union? So paid leave Oregon is outside the purview of any kind of bargaining contract. So you don't have to do anything special. You don't have to worry about that. Paid leave Oregon is not like something that can be bargained. So is the paid leave benefit taxable? I don't know. We're still waiting on the IRS for guidance. And what about a tax benefit for the employer, sort of like they did with the FFCRA? Again, we're waiting on guidance. So IRS has not come out and said whether there will be a tax benefit. How will I know if and when my employee is approved so that they don't receive more than 100% of their wages? So Francis is the name of the new online portal. They're calling it Francis Online. It is the revamped e-services portal. If you have ever had the pleasure of applying for unemployment through the old dinosaur of a portal that they had, this is the update. So employees will log into it directly to make a request, and your payroll people will also should hopefully be familiar with Francis at this point, but they're going to be logging in and like filing payroll taxes, and that's where you'll go to submit your applications for the equivalent plans. They are saying that this will be the communication portal. So as long as everything works like it's supposed to, you should be getting notifications, you should be getting letters from them when an employee is approved and how long they're approved for and what their benefit amount is going to be and all that good stuff. Now, I have not actually seen the portal and played around with it, but they say it's going to work. So I'm hopeful. Okay, I flew through that. Let me stop the screen share here so that I can see you. Okay, beautiful. Now that I've flown through that, does anybody have any questions that I didn't cover?
Hi, Brianna.
Hey, Isaac, how's it going?
Going fine. Hi, everybody. Yeah, you mentioned bereavement was not covered by one of the programs.
Yes, so bereavement would not be covered by paid Oregon leave, but there are some provisions within OFLA that allow for it. But in order to meet the OFLA threshold, you have to have 25 employees. So,
Oh, okay. So if I have less than 25 employees and one of my employees has a family member who dies, like they wouldn't be eligible for the Oregon paid leave?
correct.
Well, that sucks. But it's understandable too. They are covering a bunch of other stuff under the program.
Yes.
So, okay, okay, cool.
Brianna, can't employers decide to opt in if they have less than 25 head count?
Yes. So the way that the contributions are going to work, if you have less than 25 employees, you have the option as a small employer to contribute or not. But the employees are automatically going to be enrolled. Like you're going to be required to take contributions for your employees, regardless of if the employer is contributing or not. And so the benefit, I don't know if you were on when we were talking about this or not, but the benefit of contributing as a small employer is you're eligible for an assistance grant. And essentially what the assistance grant does is wage replacement. You apply for a grant and they do wage replacement for you to replace your worker. So. Does that make sense? Did that answer that question, Stephanie?
Well, and the other advantage is that you can say it's a benefit to your employees and be like, look how cool we are. We're helping you guys out.
Yeah. Yes. You are also eligible or able, I say eligible, you're able to pay the employee portion as a benefit if you wish to do that too.
I think that's one thing folks need to be aware of, because employees who watch their checks pretty closely are going to say, why is my check less?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you're not, and I'm talking specifically for folks that are 25 and under head count, because, you know, the employee could say, well, good grief, you know, and what are you doing about it, Mr. Employer? So there might be, you know, some thought put into maybe communicating that in advance to your group, or, you know, and how you want to do that.
Yeah, and there's going to be, they haven't created it yet. It'll probably come out after the program rolls out, but a labor law, basically like a labor law poster. So there will be a poster that you'll be required to put up next to like your minimum wage poster and all that, that explains the program to employees and talks about contributions and stuff like that too. So, but the chances that they'll have that before, I've seen these kind of things roll out before and they're not always the timeliest. So. Any other questions? You're all just super stoked about it, right?
Super stoked. So the timeline is that this thing starts pulling from payroll at the January 1st.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And when are people eligible to claim benefits?
9 months later, September 3rd is the first date. One thing that I could not find anywhere, and this could be something that comes out later, is like, when are they eligible as far as like if they're a new employee and they did not earn $1,000 in the previous year, maybe they were unemployed for a year, does unemployment count towards that $1,000 of earned income? I don't know. That'll be something I think that will roll out probably after people start running into that situation, but like I'll be interested to see how that works. And when I find out, I'll let you know. Or do they have to, like as a new employee that's contributing, do they have to wait a certain amount of time? Is it 30 days, 90 days? Kind of like Oregon sick leave is the 90 days, but there was no guidance yet. Bernard might be trying to say something, but I can't hear you. You can also put it in the chat.
Well,
Oh, there we go. Now I can hear you.
yes, no.
Each employee has to, okay, so the question is, does each employee have to tell Francis why they're eligible? So all of the eligibility will be determined by the unemployment department. What will probably happen is someone will get on and they'll submit a claim. If it's anything like the way that the unemployment questionnaire is, it'll have a whole bunch of questions for them to fill out, which will probably include things like what's your reason for for taking time off. They did say that there would be doctor's notes, like they're probably gonna have to provide information about their doctor, their phone number, probably have to get like a doctor's note, just like if you were eligible for OFLA or FEMLA and you're gone more than 3 days, you can ask an employee to provide a doctor's note or some kind of certification from the doctor. So it will probably be very similar to that kind of a process. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to send this recording out afterwards, along with the presentation, which has links to the website. I'll also send you links to their website, has like some like FAQ questionnaire little things that you can print out that have like the highlights of the program, which will be helpful. And thank you so much. That's what I know. That's what I know about paid Oregon leave. Awesome. Thank you.